Hey, Natural Born Sisters! Welcome to another episode of Kinky In The Kitchen, where every swirl, curl, coil, and wave is celebrated. You'll hear inspiring stories from women who have left straight hair, wigs, and weaves behind, despite the discrimination and bias, to reclaim their power by rocking their natural hair. Be it spiraled, kinky, defined, or straight. Whether you're already a natural sister or still finding the courage to unleash your beautiful coils, you're not alone, and you're in the right place. Let's get to know your host. She's passionate about inspiring Black women to rock their natural hair with confidence, teaching our Black natural hair-wearing women how to show up despite hair discrimination and biases. She's natural like you and rocks her kinks in the kitchen loud and proud. She's Lisa E., aka Natural Born Sistah.
What's up, Natural Born Sistah? It's your girl Lisa E., aka Natural Born Sistah, aka Living My Best Life. Welcome to the Kinky In The Kitchen podcast, a show that highlights Black women who are rocking their natural hair with confidence despite discrimination and bias. Welcome, sis. You about to enter the abyss of professionalism, optimism, and intelligence. And in this series of episodes, you will hear women talk about their profession as it relates to their natural hair. Now, some have intertwined their professions with their natural hair journeys to help others, even just for themselves, as they have dove right in just to help sisters like you in their natural hair journey just by sharing these stories. We've done this series in November of 2022 and it was a success. So we wanted to extend the expertise, recommendation, and inspiration to you again for our 2023 series. Our first guest is pulling out all the stops in this episode, and she comes from a rich background that will have you so inspired. Now, when I say rich, I'm talking rich in spirit, rich in advice that she gives, and rich in her deliveries. She has queen tendencies that you cannot help but to recognize if you were in a conversation with her. Her origination from Africa, then to the UK, will definitely show insights on the similarities and differences of our natural hair journeys. She even gives your girl Natural Born Sister, Lisa E., some advice on the decisions I make when it comes to my natural hair. Now, she broke it down so well that I had no choice but to totally be on board without any challenge. But it was cool. I still have my fights about this one, but let's see. But she's also a professional podcaster who talks about natural hair with other natural hair wearing women. Look, before I even bring her on, I just want to warn you that her voice draws you in, and she has a soothing dialect that allows you to listen. So just see for yourself, okay? So sit back and relax as I bring you Natural Born Sistah, Oreoluwa George Taylor, aka Cookie. Hey Cookie, how are you?
I am great, Lisa. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. Thanks for asking. Welcome to the show. It's been some time coming. You and I have been going back and forth about it, and I'm excited that you are here finally. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so let's get right into it. So let's start with where you from and what do you do?
Okay, so I am originally from Nigeria. That's where my family is from. That's where I'm from. But I was born and raised in London, in the UK. I am I don't even know if I can claim to be like a hair blogger anymore, because
you absolutely can.
It's so sporadic. Yeah. Like I do it so randomly. There are big gaps. But part-time-ish blogger, and then full-time corporate. I work in HR. So that's what I've been doing while I've been blogging about hair and hair care on and off for the past 10 years.
Oh, nice. So you got some time under your belt doing that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So how did the Natural Hair podcast come about for you?
Great question. So I'm trying to think of what the genesis of the Natural Hair podcast was. So I think I started it during 2020. Actually, was it 2021? It feels like I've lost time during the pandemic.
Oh yeah, me too.
I feel like the sense of time. But okay, so I was living and working in Nigeria. It was just before I got microlocks, which I no longer have. I can tell you a bit about that as well. But it was just before I got microlocks, and I was thinking about how I could re-immerse myself in conversations about Black hair, about Afro-textured hair, that didn't necessarily mean sitting down to, you know, write a blog post or recording myself on YouTube. I think I'm sort of veering away from those activities, but I wanted to continue having conversations. And I felt like off camera, I would be able to do that in a more authentic way. It also meant it was a lot easier then to bring other people into the conversations as well. So I had thought about a natural hair podcast as early as maybe 2018, 2019, but took a really long time to get about to doing something. And then I had all these reservations about how to get started and how to just the admin around setting up a podcast, because I had absolutely no experience doing that. And at the same time, I had just started a separate podcast called Peer Mentor Circles, which is about work and career stuff. So completely different. And so I was kind of running them in tandem and recording every other weekend. And it was just a case of like putting it out there on social media. Like, I want to have conversations about hair. I want us as Nigerians, because that's where I was, to talk about our hair. And let's open up the conversation. And that was really it. That was the genesis of it. So it was just, this is something that I'm always thinking about, talking about, or actively involved in. If you have natural hair, you're always doing something with it.
Right.
And so I felt like there was an opportunity to continue the dialogue, to contextualize it for where the people around me, and to keep on sharing, learning, and educating as well.
Very interesting. Did something personally happen with you and your hair to make you want to share all of this information with the others?
No, I don't think so. So I think that generally, because in my circle or community, was one of the earlier Nigerian / London, UK based hair bloggers. I mean, there were a few. I don't want to make it out like I was a pioneer, but there weren't that many of us. There weren't that many.
I agree.
So what happened is people, you know, that I was friends with, family, they would often come to me and ask me stuff about my hair. And then I cut my hair in 2018, and I figured that, I've cut it now, so no one's going to ask me anything. And that it doesn't work that way at all. Like, people continue,
right.
People continue to ask questions. And I think that what I realized is there's still an opportunity. I think maybe I thought every conversation that needs to be had about natural hair and Black hair has happened already, and there's nothing else to be said. Like, we've said everything. And what I'm realizing is, one, no, that's not true. And two, there's nothing wrong with repeating conversations, because consistent communication and consistent dialogue and discourse is often how you shift people's mindsets and their perceptions about things. And it's how you continue to spread information. So I don't know that there was any specific event. There's nothing that springs to mind as a specific event.
Okay.
I just wanted to do it. And initially there was another UK blogger that I had run the idea by, but she was very busy. She happened to be based in Nigeria as well. So a Nigerian, UK-based and raised blogger, hair blogger and vlogger. And we just couldn't get the timing to work. So I decided to forge ahead and just sort of test it out. And I kind of figured, well, you know, it may not be perfect, but I don't know that it needs to be perfect for me to start doing it.
Okay. Yeah. And you said something very interesting, Cookie, that I totally agree. You're absolutely right. It's not true. You can never talk enough about it. There's always new people coming in to hear you. You become popular. People love listening to you in general. They may have missed something one time before and be able to pick it up again later. So there's never going to be too much. It's always going to be something there for all of us to be able to take advantage of, even if it's to be entertained by it, because maybe you love hair too, but you don't want to do a podcast, but you want to hear others and hear how their views are as it relates to the hair.
Yeah, so, true. Yeah. I mean, was there like a trigger point for you to start this podcast?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Like, okay. All right. I don't know. I'll be 53 in March, right? And I started going natural when I was in my early 30s. And what I started doing, it wasn't 100% natural. Natural meaning I'm not getting any more perms, coloring, that sort of thing. So I always wore wigs. And during the wig period, I always said, I'm going to wear my hair natural. I'm not going to wear wigs anymore. I'm tired of wearing wigs. And it was getting very costly. So I would move very slow. And every time I had the decision to do it, something would hold me back. Maybe it was not figuring out what styles I wanted, not finding a natural hairdresser because, they weren't as popular as they are now. Back then, nobody didn't want to touch your hair when it was in a natural state. It was a bunch of things that deterred me from releasing my own hair. So let's fast forward 20 years later. I just started becoming natural. I think I'm going into I'm actually a little over 2 years now. And I felt like if I create a platform that will, for people like me who's going through it, who can't decide all of the things that they're going to, right? I can create this platform and it would also hold me accountable to wear my natural hair. So I remember the first day too, Cookie, I went natural and I went to the hairdresser, everything. They did my hair. It was nice. It was really cute. They did like the 2-strand twist. It was pretty. It was shiny. It was cute. I walked outside with a hat on my head. Even though I spent all that money to get my hair done and spent hours in the hairdresser, girl, I put a hat on there. The next day, I manipulated my hair and I braided it back up and I put a wig back on. Oof. So it was rough for me. And I needed something to say, Lisa, you have to do this. So if I'm putting everyone else out there saying, look, you can do this, then I'm going to have to do it too. So for me, that was like, that's what the motivation was for this podcast. So it's very interesting that you asked. Nobody has ever asked me that before. And as I'm telling you the story, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I went through all of that. And then I had to create a show in order for me to be able to rock my natural coils. And I look back at it and I'm glad, I'm so happy I did that,
Yeah, like I think it's whatever it takes to push you to take the action that's required. There's a degree of courage, right? In putting yourself out there. And especially if you're not even fully like there's a destination you're heading towards and you're not quite there, there's a lot of courage required to be like, well, I'm still going to use this as an opportunity to hold myself accountable and to encourage other people. So I think that's great.
Yeah, thank you. I was like, wow. And on top of it, I'm so very interested in hearing different stories anyway. I always like to see if this story compares to mine, if it does. And even though I'm doing the podcast, I'm learning so much as well. So it's like a back and forth. So hearing these different stories and seeing what I can do to help women who struggle with the embracement of their natural hair. So it's also important to me and my audience to hear different perspectives, tips, advice, from others in the, especially for you come from the podcast professional light. I like that. And so that's why I asked you to come on the show. And of course, I really like listening to your podcast as well, because I did listen to a couple of stories. So tell me your story. Let's start from the beginning when it all started for you for your natural hair, because I know a lot of our stories are similar. And the fact that you do come from Nigeria makes this very interesting, because I'm not sure if we're going to get the same stories as I did with the others. And I'm so anxious to hear how it all started for you.
Okay. So it started for me in 2010. So actually, let me take it back a bit. So in terms of, and I'm going to describe my texture. Texture is a very contentious topic for Black women, but I'm going to describe it. The context of this matters. In terms of texture, my hair is, so it's very, very full. I have very fine strands, but like a lot of hair. So lots of volume, very, very fine strands. In terms of curl pattern, which I don't know that I fully buy it. But anyway, in terms of curl pattern, the top is like maybe 3C, 4A. Okay. And then it's variations of like 4A and B, everywhere else. So it's like loose curls up at the top, looser curls, and then kinkier, coilier textured around the sides and the back. But if it's like out, let's say wash and go, I mean, it's short now, so there's no, my hair is always a wash and go by default. But when it was long, it was like, curly, I guess, curly. And there was this misconception that Nigerian hair, I think I've heard Americans say this as well, that Nigerian hair is a certain type of texture and it can be quite challenging to manage, and it's very thick and it's very coarse. And so people often assumed I was mixed race, and I'm not. So my hair was relaxed for as long as I could remember, up until I was about 20. And then in 2010, I got curious about what my normal texture would be like. So even my relaxed hair wasn't really like any of my other friends' relaxed hair. It was, I don't know how to explain it. The texture was just different. So when it was relaxed, it almost didn't seem like black. And I'm using that in air quotes because black hair it's so diverse, and I'm aware of that. But for the people that I was around, they didn't really view it as like black hair. They were always like, this doesn't seem like black hair. And it got me really curious about what my natural, unprocessed texture would be like. I also really, really, really did not like relaxing my hair. Like, I didn't like the process. My scalp almost always burned. I'm very, very tender-headed. I didn't like the fact that I was sort of bound to this schedule that was very inflexible. Like, once the regrowth started, even though the hair was curly, like it was just a nightmare. Like, it became painful to manage, and I couldn't hack it. So I was getting tired of that. I was curious about the natural texture. I found that my hair was always kind of like a topic of conversation. And for some reason, which was kind of one of the reasons why I started blogging. And then for some reason, I felt like, okay, well, if I go natural, or like maybe I cut it or whatever, it's going to shift focus somehow. I can't even really explain the logic now. Like, it was so long ago. I feel like the reasons I think I went natural back then and what I would tell you now is probably different. Okay. But I just was, I was tired of kind of like people telling me who I was based on what they thought they could see in me. I don't even know if that, I'm just thinking about this as I'm saying it. And somehow for me, there was some kind of end point in which if I went natural and I was growing out my natural texture, it would be a stronger indication of like who I was, like the most authentic version of myself. And I'm going to add the caveat that I don't think relaxing your hair means you're not authentically yourself. Like, I don't hold those views about anybody else. And I don't think relaxers are good or bad. I don't have an opinion on that. Mm-hmm. But I really felt like for me, it would shift the kind of conversations I was having about my hair and my identity. So growing up in the UK as a British Nigerian means that you sometimes feel like you're kind of in the middle of cultures. Okay. So rather than being a fusion of cultures, you sometimes feel stuck in the middle. And for me, the hair was like another thing. And so going natural was like maybe partly seizing full ownership of like my identity as like a West African, and maybe leaving out any room for questions about it. But as I said, then my texture ended up being like very curly and not the way most Nigerians expect natural hair to be. And so nothing changed with that, to be honest. Like nothing changed. The conversations didn't really change. I was just now living and dealing with my natural hair, and I grew to like it and love it. It became almost like a personal project. I transitioned for about 6 months, and then I got tired. I was like, I can't do this. I was so fed up. Like, after 6 months, I got home. I think I had uni, like a class that day or a lecture, got back to my accommodation, got some scissors, set up like my phone camera, and I cut it all off and recorded it and uploaded it onto YouTube.
Get the fuck out of here. Wait, Cookie. Did you just tell me you recorded yourself cutting your hair?
Oh, yeah. I recorded it. So I was 21.
Stuff like that.
Or 20? No, 21. My last relaxer was December 2020. So I had just turned 21. It was June. I think I'd done like kinky twists, like with extensions.
Yeah.
I took those out. I had done I cut my hair into a bob in like December, January to like brace myself for having shorter hair because my hair was really long. And then I did the kinky twist, got tired of those, took them out. And I was like, you know what? The next step is cutting. I'm just going to cut it. And I recorded.
Okay, so I think I missed something. So when you cut your hair, you started adding kinky twists like extensions.
Oh, no, sorry. So my last relaxer was December 2010.
Okay.
And then I cut my hair. My hair was probably it was beyond bra strap length. It was really long. And then I cut it into a bob. And then I stopped relaxing, cut it into a bob. And like the bob, when you're transitioning, so you've got like natural regrowth and then like you're trying to do this slick bob. It just wasn't working for me. So I started doing like extensions, like kinky twists or braids and things like that. And I did that up until June of that year. And then I took the extensions out, whatever it was I had, whatever protective style. And then I just cut it with like.
Do you think wearing the kinky twist help you kind of like get into the transition a little bit?
Good question. Maybe a bit, but like it wasn't the first time I had done kinky twist, but I think it definitely got me more in the mindset of, okay, my hair is going to be closer to this texture than to what it was before. And when my hair grows out again, these are the kind of things I'll be able to do with my hair versus what I was doing before. So in that 6 months before I big chopped, I did all sorts of things. I've got pictures on Facebook of like these different random styles and things I would try and do because I was like, you know what, I'm not going to have relaxed hair for much longer. Let me bang out as many styles as I can before I let go of this. And then so I think the kinky twist was like the last thing I did before I cut it.
Wow. I want to go back a little bit, and probably more so in the beginning when you were talking. You said at 20 years old, you decided to go natural. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
Okay. Where were you at this time? Nigeria, London?
No, I was in the UK. I was in a city called Bristol, which is where I went to university. Okay. So Bristol is about an hour and a half away from London. It's a university town / city, so lots of students there. A couple of my friends, I forgot to mention this. Wow. Like they'd listen to this and kill me for not mentioning it. 2 of my friends had gone natural as well. One of them had big chopped and she basically gave us no notice. Like she watched a couple of YouTube videos. She showed them to me. And I remember seeing these like American girls going natural and being like, why am I not doing this as well? Like, yeah, why? That's also a factor. I should have mentioned that too. Yeah. Thank you for that prompt. So I was definitely inspired by like Black American women on YouTube and blogging at the time as well, sharing their journeys. I think what that helped me do is reassure me that I would be able to take care of myself.
Yes. That's almost similar to what I was going through.
Yeah.
Wow. Your story is very interesting. It's in line, especially again, like I said, you coming from a different place than the rest of the American girls that I talk to. So that's a very interesting story. And it's not as close as, and I knew this was going to happen. It's not as close as the stories that I've been hearing from the girls that are here in America. So hearing yours, it's kind of a refreshing to know that there are some differences, even though we share the same skin color, hair types, there are some differences depending on where you're coming from. So thanks for sharing that. That was awesome.
My pleasure.
So let me talk about a little bit about what my mission is. So my mission is basically to get as many women as I can to embrace their beauty, their natural hair. How important is that for you? Like, is our missions different when it comes to celebrating women's embracing their natural hair?
That's a great question. I like your mission. I don't know if let me think about that. Is it different? So I think my broader mission, if I had to say that there was a mission, was to get maybe women to just accept themselves. I don't know that it matters much what that looks like. So let me answer this. So when I was recording, I don't know, one of the early episodes of the Natural Hair podcast, one of the conversations we had was about, sort of relaxed hair versus natural and the impression that we leave little girls with younger Black girls when we do things to change our appearance. And I think I'm of the opinion, and this is what I said then, and I don't know that my opinion has changed, that what's more important is for younger women and younger girls to see us loving ourselves and to see us honoring different versions of ourselves and to see us respecting ourselves. And so therefore, regardless of what you're doing with your hair or to your hair, that's kind of the primary focus for me. Now, you know, everyone, especially given some of the research that is now emerging around the risks, potential risks and implications of using chemical straightening products over a long period of time, from a health perspective, I might be inclined to try and encourage more people to lean away from that, you know. But in terms of let's say a self-confidence or self-acceptance, the most important thing for me is that women embrace who they are. And I don't know that I view sort of changing the texture of your hair as that far removed from doing other things to change your appearance. So, yeah, I mean, I'll encourage anyone that wants advice or guidance or my opinion on how they can go about starting that journey. I'm happy and willing to share it. But I also recognize that we often encourage people to do things without considering the full implications of it. So go natural, go natural, go natural. I know at least for the first 2 years that I went natural, I spent so much money on products.
Yes.
I spent so much time on my hair. And I cut my hair this year in February. I cut it all off again, like shaved it properly, like went to the barbershop, got it shaved off. And the relief that I felt in knowing that I didn't have to do anything to my hair. Like I was just going to be washing it, conditioning it, rubbing in some leave-in, and that's it. I don't need to detangle. I don't need to comb it out. It was a gift. And it's not necessarily something that everyone that chooses to opt for the natural route is going to be able to enjoy, right? People have different textures. People have different levels of patience. People have different levels of, there's just so much to it. So it's one thing to say to people, you know, go natural. And it's quite another to be with them on that journey and through the highs and the lows of it, because it does take more time. If my hair is relaxed, I wake up, I unwrap my scarf, I put it in a ponytail and I can go. If my hair is natural, is that the case all the time? And is that the case for everybody, regardless of texture? I don't know that it is.
I know for a fact that it isn't. If you have your hair relaxed, you still have to get it done. If it's not relaxed, you still have to get it done. But I applaud you for sharing the fact that you cut your hair off. Now, for me, and I don't know why this is, it could be something from my childhood. I have issues with cutting my hair off. And I think I'm getting close, Cookie. I think I'm going to cut my hair off. And I had this conversation with my fiance. What he wants me to do, he wants to see how much my hair can grow as far as like being able to put it up in a ponytail. Like he wants to see my hair in different variations. And he's afraid that if I cut it, he's not going to be able to see that. And I understand and I get that. But for me, now, you know, when you're around certain people, it's like a vanity issue. It's like, oh God, it's like your hair is like your lifeline. If I cut it off, what I'm going to be able to do with it? Am I only going to be able to wear it one way? Can I do, you know, it's always something that's in your mind that's like keeping you from cutting it. But I think I am getting closer to being able to do that for my hair, because I, not only that I want to see it that way, I don't think my hair is in good shape to continue growing from this stage. I think I have to kind of like start over, not bald, but maybe something like a low cut. The fact that our hair can do the things that it does as far as curl up, wave up, I think it's amazing. And I think that those options are better options these days than it were, you know, back in the days. Now I can like let my hair curls pop out. And they have a lot of tools where I can make it look really nice. And I'm kind of looking forward to it, to be honest. But still kind of on the fence because of that conversation I had with my fiance. So I guess I have to do what's best for me and kind of explain and let him know that I need to start fresh. I have different My hair is different inches. It's not all the same length. So I just want to get it to a healthy stage so that I can begin getting to that. However long it takes, it just takes whatever time it needs to.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean,
I applaud you.
Thank you. I don't know that I even felt, I think the first time I cut it, that time, if I look back on it, I'm probably a bit more like, oh, wow, that was so brave, or that was so crazy. But this time round, so I had micro locks in for about a year, and that journey wasn't working out. And I just wanted my hair gone. I just wanted it off. I just wanted to be free. I wanted a fresh start. I wanted it to not be the center of my schedule and my activities and my planning. I just wanted to be able to get up and go. So I don't know that there was even much of like it wasn't necessarily an emotionally charged experience. Let me put it that way. And so my husband when I met him, I had just cut my hair.
Oh,
but
okay.
it was growing back. Like, so I think I had like a tapered cut. I think, when we met, and it grew out. So during lockdown, it grew out. So he kind of got to see it at like mid-length. And then I went, did locks, and then decided to cut it again. And, for him, it was like, oh my gosh, I've seen these pictures of what your hair looked like when it was really long. I would really love to see it. I want to see it at that full length again. I think my view is that eventually you will.
Yes.
You probably will. But for right now, what's going to work best for me in terms of the lifestyle that I'm trying to pursue and enjoy and the things I want to do, I need it gone. Like, I took up competitive sports again this year, and I could only really do that in part because I didn't have to worry about like, oh, what am I going to do if I'm playing netball twice a week? How's wash day going to work? And what does that mean for what? Like, I didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. So I hear you in terms of you're considering someone else into it in your decision making, but ultimately it's your hair, it's your life, it's your schedule and your routine.
Right.
And it's your relationship with your image. So you mentioned like, hair being a lifeline. I think the thing that I've learned both times from cutting it is that it's not. It absolutely isn't. It's an add-on. It's like the cherry on top. It has absolutely nothing to do with who we are or what we are and what we offer the world. And I think what I had to sort of relearn was getting comfortable without having that to sort of fall back on, like, oh, like I do have wigs as well, right? But most times they were not being used. So most times it was me with my shaved head, just going about my life. And I kind of realized also that most people don't care. Literally, there's nobody walking around outside in the streets like, oh my God, look at this strange woman that I've never seen before with short hair. Literally.
Yeah, you're absolutely
right. No
right.
one cares, right? You care more than anybody else does.
Right.
But in terms of what you said about your relationship with like cutting hair in general, what I would say in response to that is it's probably, and you alluded to this, right? It's an emotional response to maybe messaging you received as a child or things that you saw when you were younger and the kind of things that have been reinforced over time. So if you're constantly complimented, this is just as an example, I don't know that this is the case, but if the first thing everybody compliments you on is your hair, then it does become a thing of who are you without it. And I think the first time I went natural, it was kind of getting to that where on the one hand, it should be so flattering that there's this thing that people think is so beautiful and compliment you on all the time. But on the other hand, you do start to feel like there's nothing else to offer. And I remember there was a guy that I liked at the time when I was like 20. And when I said to him I was going to cut my hair, he said something like, it was half joking, but it landed. He said something like, oh, well, good luck finding a boyfriend.
Really?
Good luck finding, something like that. And again, it's like jokingly, but not jokingly reinforcing this idea that you are only interesting or appealing with your hair. And I'm really glad that now I've kind of disentangled myself from that whole mindset and narrative. I don't want to feel like that.
I hear you. Yeah. Now, versus your first haircut and your second one, I know you mentioned that the second time it was pretty easy. Is it because you already got over it the first time? How was it the first time?
The first time it was just chaotic because I was using paper scissors. Like they weren't even hair scissors.
Girl.
I don't know what to tell you. I don't know if it was even. I just cut away. And then I washed it and I used like my 1,000 million products, and that was about it. This time around, it was very methodical. I went to the barbershop. I sat down. I had gone to him like 3 times. He was always busy. And on this day in particular, I was like, you know what? No matter what, this hair is coming off today. I am cutting the hair today, no matter what. And so I finally got like an appointment with him. And I was like, cut it. He was like, so what do you want me to? I was like, you just get the clippers, just cut it off. Just cut it off. Like, I just felt relieved. I walked out and it was cold because like February in London is still pretty cold. And the wind was blowing on my head. And I was just like, like I think I literally exhaled. Like it felt like freedom. It felt like relief. And I don't think it was until maybe the next day I really thought about, well, what am I going to look like with no hair? My face is rounder now. Like when I did it 10 years ago, I was a skinny little mini, like I was tiny. I'm plus size now. So my face shape has changed too. And so maybe I thought about that a bit. And then I was like, I don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Good for you. Let me ask you a question though. When you went into the barbershop, about how long your hair was at the time?
When I had the locks, I think my hair was probably like it had passed shoulder length.
Shit.
It had passed shoulder. We literally had to shave it. You know what's funny? I captured the footage and I uploaded it onto Instagram, and then realized that I had put one of the clips in the wrong order. And so I took it down to correct it and just never uploaded it again. So I recorded the whole thing. Like I documented the whole process. I recorded myself before I went to the barbershop where I explained why I was doing it. Like it was very clear in my mind that this hair is going.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. Oh man. It takes events for future events to be more successful than the first event. I always believe in that. It's just like a serial killer. Once they make their first kill, it's easier moving forward.
They do. Yeah.
So, nice. Okay. So, is there anything else, Cookie, that you would like to share with us regarding your hair journey? Anything you think you may have missed? You want to touch on?
I'm gonna give my unsolicited advice, which is follow the science rather than the trends when it comes to hair care. Don't go and buy a load of products. You don't need them. Don't lust after anybody else's texture. And that's a really difficult one to hear. It's a really difficult one to hear. But it's really hard to enjoy the process of growing out your natural hair and going on that journey if you've already set your sights on what someone else has rather than on what your hair and look could be like. So that's it. I mean, and then what else would I like to say? You can always change your mind. I think people think this natural journey is like a one-way journey. And ideally, maybe it should be, but it doesn't have to be. I have friends who have gone back and forth. I have a really close friend who recently, she's big chopped multiple times, and she recently relaxed her hair. And now she's like, you know what? I'm probably going to cut it and go natural again. And that's fine. There are seasons within our lives when a certain way of doing things is going to be easier or harder. So lean into the ease as well. And be patient. Hair doesn't grow overnight. There's no magic product that is going to make your hair grow 3 inches in a week or whatever BS people are peddling online. You've got to be patient and you have to take care of yourself. That's the best way to grow healthy hair that doesn't break.
Absolutely. Before that explanation, I used to think differently when people used to flip flop and when they can't decide on if they want to stay natural, if they want to go back to perm, So my thing is now, after hearing you talk, I just feel like if you come from a time where you were getting relaxers and that was the big thing back then of course you're going to have that option in mind. You're still going to have those options because you've experienced those options. You know what it felt like to have your hair like that, and going through your journey as far as trying to embrace your natural hair. There may be a struggle, but at least you're trying, right? So this is why I always mention that I would love to see our children just grow into their natural hair. And if they want to do something when they get older to it, they can, but they've grown into their natural hair and their parents didn't put a wig on it. They didn't, get a relax in their hair. I mean, just natural. There's so many things we can do with their hair in its natural state.
I agree. And I would say maybe the only sort of firm opinion I do have is against relaxing kids' hair. I just don't think. Yeah, I don't think you should do it. I had that done. And like when I have conversations with my mom now, she's like, if she had known better, she was a young parent. And I think if she had known better, she probably would have done different. Like that's her view now. So I don't even know that it's something, even as someone who did it, I don't think it's something she would sort of encourage now. So I really think that, how people choose to wear their hair is up to them. But I think that for children, as the adult in the situation, take responsibility and maybe don't put potentially harmful chemicals on their head. Yeah, absolutely. I have a view on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially like you said, our parents didn't really know. Like that was the thing. Like if you, and even with me, and I've said this in one of my casts that I felt like it was a crime to go outside without my hair either being pressed or relaxed. I thought that I couldn't go outside like that, So yeah, it depends on how you were growing up. That's why I'm hoping that we can just kind of move forward with our young ones in the natural state that it's in. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm optimistic. I think
me too.
Yeah, let's see. But I think it starts with us, right? So just Black women generally feeling good about themselves. That's the starting point for me, because that is what younger people are going to learn. It's the behaviors.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I had a fun time, Cookie. I don't know about you. This has been really
great. It's been so nice speaking with you.
Yeah, thank you. The same here. I just feel like, especially your story, like, remember when I said earlier, I said, I know it may be some differences. I don't know for sure. And there was, in fact, very tiny differences, but for the most part, again, all the same. We all end up in the same way. I like how you talked about when you cut your hair. I mentioned that. That's very brave of you to share. I love that. And the fact that you did it twice. Oh my God. And comparing both experiences with each other, how easy it was for the first versus the second, or whatever the reasoning was for each one. I love everything that you shared with us. And I hope that the audience can definitely, and I'm sure they will, because I've even found some inspiration, that they can too find inspiration in your story and relate to it. So my question, this is supposed to be my famous question. Which t-shirt did you choose?
So I chose the white t-shirt with the logo in the middle of it.
I think it's the Brooklyn's kinkiest one.
Brooklyn's kinkiest t-shirt, yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I think it's gonna look great. So what it is I visualized which one I would like to wear with like a pair of jeans and a belt and some boots. And I was like, yeah, that's a look, with a leather jacket as well. I feel like.
Yes. Oh my God. With a leather jacket. Only reason why I say I agree with that with the leather jacket is because the girl is wearing two ponytails on the side. Oh my God, that will mesh together so well. Okay, so now we got fashion tips from Cookie. So let's take a note of that. A nice leather jacket with the Brooklyn's kinkiest t-shirt will go well together. Yeah, I would love to see you in a picture in that.
Oh, listen, once the t-shirt arrives and I can get that look set up, I will send it to you, I promise.
Thank you. I would appreciate it. I would love that. Well, I want to end it off here and say thank you for being on the show. Your presence was amazing. So I appreciate you sharing your story with us.
My pleasure. I'm so glad that we got to speak. Your listeners are very lucky to have you. We are very lucky to have you. So thank you so much for having me on the show and for this great conversation.
Thank you so much, Cookie. I really appreciate that. And I want you to keep doing what you're doing because, like I said, I found you because I like what I heard. And I just don't bring anybody on the show So it's definitely got to be that. So I would like you to continue and to pursue to help these women.
You are inspiring me to jumpstart things again. I've been quiet for a while, so maybe this was the inspiration I needed to get things going again.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Well, thanks again, and you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. Bye-bye. Sis, Miss Cookie has impressed, as I told you. Her hair journey is simpler than that of Black women living here in America, but so relevant. And there are many similarities in her story versus the US, but as you hear it, you understand what I mean. Shit, especially if you've heard other stories by women who are here in the US. And although we share different views when it came to me describing my hair as a lifeline, we both shared our point of views behind it. And the reason I discovered that my hair is a lifeline because of its continuous growth. And since my hair is still growing out of my scalp, it still has a life. It still lives on. Accessories are temporary, but remember, your fucking hair, it still lives the fuck on. And this is why this project with Kinky in the Kitchen is so important. We want the journey to live on. It may be hard for some of us, and learning to adapt to new styling techniques, for hair care and a lot of other things. We can do this because we're still alive. And sharing and comparing stories as Black women allows us to come together and evolve. I enjoyed my time with Cookie, and I hope you have as much as I did. But if you have questions for her, hit her up on IG and Facebook at Cookie's Real Haircare. Now, Cookie's Real Haircare is all together like one word. And if you're a professional who has a story to tell about your natural hair, hit me up. Hit me up at naturalbornsistah@gmail.com. And don't forget, sister is spelled with an AH at the end. naturalbornsistah@gmail. And let's get you on the show, sis. And listen, Cookie, she has chosen Brooklyn's kinkiest t-shirt. Now, this is our first for this show, and I'm so happy she selected it. It's one of my favorites because it took me so long to create this. Not the design, but I knew what I wanted. It was manipulating the design for everything to work and come together. And creating the words for this tee, it represents where I'm from, my hair texture and my culture all in one t-shirt. Every tee, they each have a special meaning, and when one is selected by my guests, it confirms that they do make sense. And for those who purchase them, also get my concept of the voiced apparel. 2 words on a tee can say it all. It really can. And the purpose of the t-shirt line is to help instill confidence for those who are either new into wearing their hair natural or have been true to the game for some time and still want people to know how they feel about rocking their natural hair in confidence. What I preach all the time. So no matter what side of the fence you're on, there's a tee for you at Natural Born Sistah. So get you one, sis, and you see what I mean. And don't forget, we're bringing you kinky content in the kitchen every Wednesday on your favorite cast and YouTube on Thursdays. Stay up, sis.
That's all for today. What feelings are you left with? Do you have questions, thoughts? DM on IG at Natural Born Sistah and let's talk about it. Oh, and don't forget to leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. They really help us grow and reach more women who need company on their hair journey. We'll chat it up next week.